Hi guys, and thank you for joining us back on episode of Stacking Wisdom. We're your co-hosts Alex and Artem. We're here joined today with Justin and David. They have a really cool business that they're running, and it's very in sync with a lot of what we were trying to accomplish with this podcast as well. So because of that, we thought that it would be the perfect opportunity to bring them on, and allow them to speak of their venture and what they're trying to accomplish with it. So I'll give you guys the mic. I'll let you open up.
Thank you so much for having us on board.
Of course, it's a pleasure to have you guys. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we really started, we're a couple of young guys, and we were trying to basically use our time better. I was personally in college at the time, and recently after I finished, I had a lot of time on my hands, and frankly, I was doing a lot of nothing, man. I was playing video games, eating some instant ramen noodles, and not making good use of my time. And I think we've all been there, right? Especially when you're young, right? You're used to having a lot of that time to yourself. And it's a real shift in mentality when you start to get a little bit older, and you definitely don't notice it right away. It's not something that just happens. But you start to realize, hey, like, I'm running out of time. There's no longer that I have 7 hours in my day to just do what I want with. Now I'm working to put food on the table, or you're finishing up with your school, you've got exams, whatever it may be.
How did you come to that realization? Like, what was the one thing that sort of kicked in and clicked in?
I got sick of it, man. I was literally at that point. I had just finished my schooling,
right,
and had education on my belt. I enjoyed it, and here I was, qualified, but I was not working a job.
Right.
I was not volunteering anymore. I wasn't doing anything particularly productive, and it carried on like that for quite a few months. And honestly, what pushed me was, I said, well, I'm sick of this. Like, I feel useless. I'm doing nothing, and I could be doing something so much more. And don't get me wrong, there's nothing particularly wrong with that, but it's a personal thing, right? It's a personal point for everybody. When you hit that point and you say, what could I be doing? Like, I feel like I could be doing so much more, right? Sure. It's a potential thing. It's a drive thing, and we all hit that at different points. Just
out of curiosity, like the volunteering part, was that always sort of a part of your culture, maybe like of something that you've always done, or
not even? I'll be frank. Right now, in the last couple of years, I've hit a great drive point where I've been on it. I've been working hard, grinding. But to be honest, before that, I was smart enough up here, and I didn't have to try too hard in school. So to be honest, my work ethic really suffered for that. So volunteering, that's something that came on more through college. I was working in the hospital, helping out nurses and stuff like that, doing patient care.
Nice. That's really tough work.
It was really interesting, and I learned a lot. Great experience. And that was also one thing that started
probably humbling, very.
Absolutely humbling, yeah, for sure. And really puts things in perspective, right? And I realized, that was one thing for me starting off my business was you have no idea how long you're gonna live. You could live 60 years, you could live 5. And what you, as a young guy, you don't think about those years because we just take for granted that we're gonna live, and we're gonna live a full life. But that put me in place, man. You don't know exactly when your time is, and so when you have that realization, what you dedicate your time to in the years that you have in your life, whether you know the finite result or not, becomes valuable. Well, what's your legacy? What's your purpose here on this world? Are you going to live just a regular life? Are you going to care for your family, and there's just no noble cause in that? Or do you want to do more? Or are you just for you? Are you a one-man team, right? It's different for everybody, and there's no right or wrong answer. But everybody's got that realization at some point, and for me, it happened pretty young because I was doing something pretty grown up at a young age. And it really put that in perspective for me. What am I doing with my time? What am I doing with my life?
I was going to say, because it resonates with somebody who's a little bit older in terms of, their thinking and their mindset, because most kids, they're just comfortable with just like, taking it easy. I'm like, and even if they do get a job there, even if they're working the 40 hours, they're like, whatever, I'll just coast along, right?
Absolutely. So, and one of the things too that I noticed, because I've pretty much been a permanent student since high school. I started in software engineering, took a brief stint as a bush pilot for a bit, switched into med.
That's incredible. Honestly. That's the one experience. I'll be honest. I know David from before, from somewhere else, and that part alone, I think, was the one most fascinating thing to me. It was like, how do you go from a pilot to to whatever else that you've done.
Pilot to entrepreneur.
So there's this little break in the middle where I was like, you know what, I kind of bored of this piloting. Let's go try and be a doctor for a bit. And so I did that, maybe about 6 months, hated every second of it. It wasn't really what I wanted to. Switched back into a form of software engineering. Right now I'm an information systems consultant in addition to entrepreneur here. But one thing that I've noticed all the way through all these experiences was that students lack the tools or the understanding in order to realize that they can control their own business. They can control their own destinies. They control their own careers.
Absolutely.
One thing that is very common in today's society is that parents are like, all right, go to school, get your degree, get a good job, pay into your pension, and work for the rest of your life, and then retire when you're 65 and enjoy that time.
But the thing is, it doesn't work that way because there's no job security most of the time. Nobody wants to hire you and keep you on. Because I even know, like speaking from about IT, right, specifically, a lot of the times they'll hire somebody just fresh out of college. They'll keep them on for 5 years and be like, hey, bye.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And then like there's no, they'll hire somebody else who they can pay a little bit less, right?
And so now you're graduated. You have all this student debt. You have massive student debt now, especially if you look at America, Canada. Student debt is over $100 billion in total debt.
It really is.
It's insanity. And so what I've tried to do, and what Justin and I have been trying to do, is educate. Like the biggest thing that we want is, we're also here to make some money. You know, we run our own business, but the biggest thing we want is a social shift. We want students to realize that it's not just about going to work, getting paid, and going on. We want them to have control over that. We want them to be able to make those decisions for themselves, for their families, for their friends, and for anyone that they need to.
And you know, knowledge is power, right? I think as a college student, specifically speaking from my experience, but you feel, especially when you're in that route, you have a specific path that you've been set on, and there's only really one way to get there. You're going to stay here for 4 years, you're going to grind it out, you're going to finish. And it's hard to look outside of that box sometimes when you've been kind of in that shape, right? You're shaped there from grade school, right? Go to school, you're going to be here for the next 10 years, and then when you're done, you're going to go to school again, and you're going to pay for that. And to think outside of that mentality, it doesn't come necessarily easily. You either have to have some form of outside stimulus or you have to be hungry for it yourself. But that realization that, hey, there are other avenues in life that you can take. It may not be the easiest. It may not be the safest. But if you put your work into it, it's definitely doable. And if you look at all the most successful people in the world, whether they have the education or not, at some point they took their future into their own hands and they said, I'm going to find a way, however hard it may be, I'm going to find a way to make more, to do more, because you can only do so much with 40 hours in your week or your 24 hours in a day. That's a big thing for me. Someone might be twice as smart as you. They could be really smart, right? You have an IQ of 200, but they don't have twice your IQ, okay? They don't have 48 hours in their day. And they're not twice the man you are. So how are they making so much more? How are they doing so much more? It's what they do with their time. And if you're real with yourself, honestly, are you spending the most amount of time in your day doing things that are productive or going to have a greater effect on your life? Or are we playing video games and you know, watching Game of Thrones all day? There's a time and a place for that. There's a time for peace of mind. It gets you, it takes you where you need to be. And when you need that kind of, that's relaxation space, it's critical. But spending too much time in that kind of state of mind can become a habit. And when you're in that habit, it's hard to see that you're there. So if you're real with yourself, what are we really dedicating our hours to? Because that's a valuable resource.
Of course.
And you also have to find what you're passionate about too. Like if you can work in an industry, you can like working in the industry. But if you're not passionate, if you don't wake up saying, I'm going to go do this today and it's going to be awesome, what's the point? At that stage, you're just trying to get to the end of the day. You're still getting paid. You may enjoy what you're doing, but you don't love it.
Surviving, not living.
You're surviving, not living. And so one of the great things I love about being a business owner, about getting to choose what I do each day, is the fact that I wake up every morning and I'm like, this is going to be awesome. I'm going to do this, this, this. It's going to give me this, this, and this. I'm going to change this, this, and this. And it's awesome. It's empowering. It makes you feel like you can do anything. Because you can at this point. You now control every step of your day. You control every decision you make. You control the decisions of everyone who works for you, and you also have the ability to make a positive change.
True.
It's not easy to get there. I think the one thing about starting a business, a lot of people kind of see this end goal where they're.
But you know what? It is and it isn't. Like I know what you mean. That it isn't easy to start it in the sense that it's not easy to find funding. It's not easy to come up with a solid idea. It's not easy to have a feasibility plan. It's not easy to put a business plan together that actually works, right?
For sure.
It's not actually easy to get feedback. But I think the one thing that a lot of people are sort of missing, and I'll jump back from my thought right now for a second. I agree with you what you're saying in regards to this is totally not for everybody. I think that the myth of being a business owner is kind of it's become almost like being like a rock star nowadays, right? So like, in a sense, it's kind of like so many people they want to say, oh, I started my own business, I registered my own company, blah blah blah, but they sit on it for like the next 5 years and they do nothing with it, right? So, and then like
I think an important distinction: anyone can attempt business, but only if you can succeed.
Right.
Yeah.
Because to succeed in business, you have to be a shark. You have to be able to make those killer decisions. You have to be able to spend 80 to 90 hours a week making $0.
But it's also that drive that you were talking about, right?
Exactly. So more than that, right? I think you need two things, right? Or some combination thereof. You either need skill, raw talent, or you need passion.
But there's tons of people that are not talented at all, and they own businesses,
and they do it,
and they do an amazing job. But there's tons of people that are super passionate and talented, but they don't get anywhere because they don't have that little
Just a little bit.
piece of the push. And
there's a sweet spot.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Absolutely. And I think that passion goes a long way because passion leads to when you love what you're doing. All right, make no mistake, I would probably not enjoy sitting in an office for 8 hours a day. I don't know what type of work I'd be doing, but some people excel at that and they can do that extremely well. And if you can find enjoyment in that, then you've found your niche. If you can turn your business into that which you are passionate about, it's not work, right? You're more likely to be willing to put in the 8, 9, 10-hour days, which is oftentimes what it requires.
Sure.
And if you're doing something that you thoroughly detest, how easy is it to think to yourself, I'm going to love doing this for the next 10 years, 10 hours a day? Heck no.
And
right?
that's really where we came up with Bed Build Business, because our goal with Bed Build Business is not only to help start businesses. It's not just about empowering business owners. It's about teaching people how you can do it, how you can do this for yourself. You don't need to go to someone and be like, I want to work for you, you're going to pay me X dollars. You don't need to do that anymore. You can make these decisions, especially with the technology we have access to, with the information we have access to.
No kidding. Yeah.
It's huge.
Awareness of resource, right? We live in a really interesting time. My parents' age could not do this, right? You had to, if you wanted to own a business, and I understand that difference, right? I want to own a business. Well, that means, okay, I have to own a store, which is real estate. I'm going to need a mortgage maybe on that, right? I'm going to need staffing. I need upfront costs. Today's day and age, if you have the idea, if you have the thought and the creativity as well as the drive to get it done, the world is the limit. The sky's the limit. You can do whatever you want. You can make $1 million from your cell phone in your pajamas. You could do it as a 17-year-old kid. I'm sure there are people who do that, right?
Drop shipping, for example.
Do you have the idea,
concept,
right?
Drop shipping came about as we don't even want to store your product. We're just going to put you in touch with. We're going to be a middleman, and so many companies already do that. If you look at Walmart, if you look at any regular retail store, that's what they do. They just put you in contact with a wholesaler. They hold the thing for you. They sell it. They mark it up for their services. But you don't really realistically need to do that, especially in today's age where you can contact a wholesaler in China and in Bangladesh and India. You can just contact and be like, all right, I need 50 of these, just send them to my house.
And they're happy because that's their business as
Because
well.
it creates volume for them.
It's
for
a
sure.
great contract. Yes, it'd be great to have Walmart, but there's only one Walmart, and there's a lot of wholesalers. So if you call them up and say, "Hey, I have a small business. I'm looking to sell some T-shirts. Can you print me some T-shirts?" Well, guess what? They'd be happy to have another client on. Are you willing to call them? It's not comfortable cold calling. And you face a lot of rejection, right? But it's a numbers game.
But at the same time, it's one of those things. I think that it's actually great for you to be faced with challenges like that, especially something like cold calling, because it builds up your character a little bit. Because
some tough skin, right?
The more you get rejected, the more I think motivation and drive it gives you. But then for people that can't really handle it, maybe in a way it's good, because it's better for the people
right?
like us that will be like, okay, well, you can't stomach it, we'll stomach it.
Yeah,
exactly.
Sure.
Every failure is a lesson, especially as an entrepreneur, and you're going to fail a lot. Everyone does. We all do.
A lot.
My very first business. This was around the original legalization of cannabis in Ontario, and I was like, all right, you know what I'm going to do? We're going to sell designer smoking equipment. And so this was a great idea. We contacted wholesalers, we had our storage space, we had our boxes, we had everything, And then they were like, okay, we're going to push this for 2 years. And we're like, damn. Now we have all this inventory, and we have no one to sell it to. And so the business failed. But we learned very important lessons from that. And I specifically learned very important lessons. Rely on the things you can rely on. Plan for the worst. Hope for the best, but always be ready to pull out when you need to and move on to the next thing. And one of the things we strive to do with Bed Built Business is empower those business owners with not only the tools, we also give them the knowledge. And we train them where we don't just provide the services. When we walk through, we partner with them. We're just like, all right, listen, we'll set up your website, but this is how you run it. This is how you manage it. This is how you can expand it beyond our scope. And we're more than happy to help you get there. But really what we want to do is empower you.
We were finding there was a lot of cases where, Bed Built started out as just kind of web design. He had a great skill, and I was great on the front end. I loved talking to people, talking with clients, and we were just building websites for them. Hey, I want to have a business. I want to do a web store. Can you do something for me? Absolutely. And when we were delivering, I started to realize, man, these people is like, hey, I want to own a business. Well, great. Having a website's not the whole battle, right? And what's a wholesale? What's taxes? What's a bin? Right? There's so much more.
Yeah.
And we were finding that a lot of people, great people and potential great business owners, who just didn't have the know-how. They were like, yeah, I want to own a business, and I hear that you can just have a website and make some money. That's not exactly the case, right? And so we found
there's so much more with like advertising and promotion and marketing.
We found a whole separate market
we
there,
usually
right?
deal with, right? Yeah,
and people were happy and willing. They were, they want to learn. And make no mistake, they want to. But finding the right resources as well as a trustable resource, especially when you have that kind of risk on your shoulders starting a new one, right? Finding something that you trust is going to take you in the right direction goes a long way. And offering that extra bit. Hey, we could just dump this website with you. Sure, we'd happily. But do you know how to use it? What are you going to sell on the website? These are important things that maybe they haven't fully thought through, but could go a very long way. So we found that whole separate market there with the coaching and just general knowledge, right? Helping them build that asset instead of just giving them a website.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of things too that you find, especially that we found with working with our clients, that they don't know that we consider basic, that we all consider basic because we've lived through this experience now. But things that the education system, for example, doesn't really cover.
Taxes.
They don't. Taxes is very large. So, for example, we had a client. We had a client who was selling products online. And she didn't have an HST account. She didn't know how to file her taxes in addition, because she was a sole proprietorship, like most small businesses originally started out as. And she didn't know how to file her taxes in addition to her T4. And so we showed her how to use the T2125. We showed her how that you can create an HST account online. All of these resources are available, but they're really hard to find on government websites, especially.
But that's the thing is, I think that a lot of people are kind of like creating a lot of like roadblocks for themselves by saying that, oh, I don't really know how to set up. Dude, you live in North America. In comparison to somewhere like in Africa, the ease of operation of business is so much better. The fact that you can find all of this stuff online,
infrastructure's on place.
You just have to dig. You just have to be like willing to actually search for it. And if you don't know, that's another beauty of living in Canada is, if you don't know, you can call the government. You can ask them.
Exactly.
You can
There are
consult with
people
them.
to ask. Yeah, absolutely. And that's what it comes down to, right? Is that difference between someone who just wants a business versus someone who, I'm going to have a business. I'm going to get there somehow. What am I going to do to get there, right? And these people, they're driven. And that's the one common characteristic that I find in a lot of successful entrepreneurs. There are some entrepreneurs who are successful who perhaps don't have drive. But all of the really successful ones, they have drive. And that's what pushes them through that. When they hit that roadblock, that seems like a lot of work.
So let me ask you this: how do you identify really successful from just being successful? Because that's like a fine line, right?
Yeah,
So
it is a fine line.
How do you kind of like perceive the people that actually have that drive, as you say?
So for me, what it comes down to is, you can define success in a lot of different ways. You can have monetary success, but at the end of the day, that's not what everyone looks for. Personally, I define my success in a lot of different ways as well. It's not just monetary, but the overarching goal for our business, our project is to educate, right? So if I'm doing well, whether it's monetarily or not, if I'm able to reach an audience and be doing what I love every day, I'm fed and I have the ability to work something that I'm passionate about every day. That's my definition of success. Because I could just as well be working 8 hours a day at Home Depot and I would not be enjoying my time there. Maybe that's for somebody else, but I know it wouldn't be for me. It's personal. If I'm doing something that I love every day and I'm getting paid for it, that's success. Whether you're getting paid pennies or pounds, right? If you're dedicating your time in your life to being able to work something or work towards something that you find passionate about, that you're passionate about, or that you find value in, right? That there's real world value there.
And to answer your question, Alex, the first thing that I do in order to do that, and really the only thing I do, is I ask all of our potential clients one question. What are you willing to sacrifice to get ahead? And whether if it's time, whether it's money, whether it's a combination of the two, whether it's everything, because success at this point, especially when you're starting a business, is almost defined by what are you willing to sacrifice? What are you going to give up in order to see? Are you going to give up your cushy 40-hour work week where you're getting, your confirmed income? You can feed yourself and you can pay your rent. You can do
have your dental covered and whatever else.
You can get your benefits.
It's a risk.
But what are you willing to sacrifice? Because one of a famous quote I've heard that in entrepreneurship and business a lot is, if you work you could work a 40-hour work week for someone else. You could work an 80-hour work week for yourself.
So true.
And make the same amount of money.
Yeah.
But the big difference is that you're doing that for yourself, and it's scalable. Everything that you can do has to be scalable. And that's the same way I view successful businesses too. It's great. You can run a mom and pop shop corner store. That's fine. But if you don't expand it, I wouldn't consider that business a success.
And that's another thing too, is you could be working for yourself and you could be sitting there and staring at the computer, but then you could be more productive, right? And in other ways too.
Absolutely.
And that's, it's almost like you need like a long-term plan in order for you to develop that. So is that something you guys help them with as well, in developing like a strategy?
That's the difference between, I'm very passionate about that, running versus owning a business, right? The very key distinction there. Mom and pop store, right? You may have been in business for 40 years. That's a long time. What have you been doing for those 40 years? Some people don't have a big goal. They don't have an exit strategy per se. But there's thought that can be put into that. I call it, my whole calling really is passive income. Now that's a very kind of, shall we say, potentially unattainable goal. It's hard to reach,
It's like the smart person's way to easier access to money.
It's hard to reach per se, right? And it's easy to say, oh, I'd love to just sit there and have money come to me while I sleep. But building that asset, it requires an upfront investment of time, energy, and or money, or all three, right? And so having, for example, a mom and pop store, well, yes, you could spend easily 80 hours a week running that. You could make very good money. There are a lot of mom and pop restaurants that make millions, right? But are you developing an exit strategy? Because yes, I'm personally good at managing mom and pop store, but I'm sure that I could invest some time to train Joe over there, who could be great at running a mom and pop store, so that, oh, I have 40 hours in my week now, and I can open up a second mom and pop store, or I can open up my nail salon, which I've wanted to open up for years. It's freeing the time, and knowing that with the right input, you can free up the time. A lot of people just think, I have this business, I'm so busy all the time, I don't have time to run another one. But are you investing the time to train someone to take your place? Exit strategy. You don't want to be working this for the next 40 years, right? It's tough. It's tough, and it's stressful.
And one of the first things that we do when we sign on clients is we help them develop their business plan. And we make sure, we're like, listen, you can have a plan for the next year. That's fine. That's all well and good. We want at least 5 years, because that's how we can see whether or not it's going to be worth our time and your time, right? Because if you're not if you reach the second year point and you've reached the maximum amount of customers you can generate, and you're not generating any new products, you're not generating any new services, at that point you might as well take your money and walk away, because you're not going to be able to grow. And once you can't grow, you'll start shrinking. And then you'll start losing money. And at that point, it's not sustainable. Why even be involved? So we try and develop their 5-year plans. We try and develop, hopefully, a 10-year plan, but we know that takes a little bit of extra time. You need to see what assets you have to work with. So we leave that for the end of the fiscal year. Usually at the end of the first fiscal year, we'll have developed a 10-year business plan, because we also like to get them set up with banking. We like to get them set up with long-term assets, and good debt versus bad debt. So we like the term good debt and bad debt, because with bad debt, you take your credit card, you buy a sandwich, you eat the sandwich, you don't pay your credit card. Bad debt. Good debt. You take a nice line of credit, you use it to buy income, you use it to buy product, you sell that product, you make that, you pay your interest, you never risk your own money. Just keep risking the bank's money.
Good debt versus bad debt is essentially what you buy with that debt per se. What you buy with it, is it going to give you something in return? Now, if I buy a sandwich, yes, it feeds me, and I need that to run. So technically, in a way, you could call that good debt.
Investing in yourself long term, short term.
It's a gourmet sandwich. You buy a
Gourmet sandwich.
Sure,
You buy a
You buy
gourmet
a
sandwich.
tuna melt. That's
Yeah.
fine.
Now,
You buy
is that worth it? Is the $12 for that sandwich worth it? Because technically, I could eat a can of tuna and I'd be just as full. My body would still function for the day. It may not taste as great, but I'm never going to see that $12 again in my life for that sandwich. And that guy was
No return.
super happy to make. He's like, yes, I will make you a sandwich for $12. Absolutely. It takes me 5 minutes and a slice of cheese to make you that sandwich. Sure, I'll do it for $10, right? He's happy to do that.
Yeah.
And you got to wonder, okay, why are they so happy to do that? It's because it's great for them. That's their business. So if I'm buying that sandwich every day, 3 times a week, 3 times a week for the last year, how much does that add to? Because $10 a sandwich may not seem that much to everybody, but if you do it on an even slightly consistent basis, that adds up to an incredible amount of consistent sum over your year. Now, if you
That's
had
how Tim Hortons operates.
exactly right.
Yeah.
Now, if you had taken that per se, let's say you had the same amount of credit, and you bought something like stock, risky potentially,
Yeah.
but only on your own merit. What did you specifically choose? If you buy something with the purpose of having it give you ROI, return on investment, that's good debt. It's going to pay back itself and then some, right? And that's free money.
Of course.
And you didn't have to spend your own capital to generate that, right? That's the goal. Is you want to use anything but your own capital, but it has to be used for something that's going to get you a return. If you're using someone else's money to buy sandwiches, they're happy. The sandwich guy's happy to charge you $10, and the bank's really happy to charge you 20%
They charge you
interest on their
20%
credit,
interest on that.
right? So everyone's going to take their cut somewhere. So you have to realize that and account for that. Okay, what am I going to put this money towards? It better get me more than 20% because that's at least what the bank's getting.
And we find a lot of, especially because we work with a lot of young entrepreneurs too, like either fresh out of college, within the 18 to 30 range, we find a lot of them don't realize that their credit cards, if they make the minimum payment, they're going to be paying that for 20 years minimum, right? They don't seem to understand. They're like, oh, I'll pay my minimum payment, it'll go down eventually, right? That's how it should work. That's what's advertised as, right? They don't understand. They don't have the education. They don't have the knowledge. They don't even. They could. All of this is available.
It's not particularly, difficult knowledge to
it really
obtain,
isn't.
but it's
like we find that they don't have it, and so
Some of the things that you should be teaching at school.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Some of the things-
Just like preparing a meal for yourself or making yourself dinner. Because if you can invest into meal prep alone, that can save you thousands and thousands and thousands of
Yeah.
dollars.
Hey man,
down the road.
I love investing, but I tell you what, I lived on instant ramen noodles when I was in college. I don't know how to cook. I can't do it at all, and I spend way too much money buying pre-prepared food because I don't know how to cook, and I'm just not willing to learn. Okay, that's one thing that's probably not the most ideal, right? But for everybody goes through, living on your own at some point, college, whatever it might be. Investing in skills like that can get you so much savings or overall use, right? In the whole course of your life. Learning about some compound math, okay, you can do that, right? But these small skills, taxes, right? Tax is going to be around forever. They say there's 2 things you can't escape, death and taxes.
That's right. Yeah.
So why aren't they teaching me that in grade 11? Because that'd be great knowledge to have, right?
Yeah.
So we found a lot of people, and it's not that they don't want to know these things, of course, but they don't even know that they need to know this or that they should know it, right?
They don't
the
know that they're
difference.
missing anything, and that's we find. It's not even that it's willful ignorance; it's that they just don't know. They don't know that these are all the steps I need. So, like for example, when we had a person who wanted to start a business with us, they're like, I want to sell graphic shirts. So they have the nice graphic, they're great artists. They're like, so how do we sell these shirts? Like, where do we get the shirts from? And so we had to walk them through the process. Okay, so you contact the wholesaler, you send them to your design, but first you make sure that your design is under a proper license. So they don't just steal your design. We had to go through all the documentation of that. And they're like, okay, so now I have the shirts. I'm like, okay, so how are you going to sell them? Do you want to sell them in a store? Do you want to have your own store? Do you want to go to a different
credit.
store?
Sure, of course.
What options are you going to take? And so these are all things that we try and teach them as part of Bed Built and as part of operation.
And you learn from failure, right? That's a big thing that I've learned is in business, in entrepreneurship, whatever, in life. You can only learn from your failures. You can't learn if you're doing everything right.
Or you could be smart and be watching our podcast and
Yeah, that's also
be
true.
learning so much from it too, right?
Learn, guys, right?
Well, that's part of the education.
Yeah,
You either
exactly.
learn-
And it's part of education that you guys provide too, right?
Absolutely.
You learn from your
Yeah.
failures, or if you're smart, you learn from the failures
Exactly.
of others, right?
So exactly, smart. So stack your wisdom
your
there.
wisdom.
There you go.
That's a good one. No, for sure. And so, learning from your failures, you have to take a leap somewhere, right? But that's how you learn. Those Well, the hardest mistakes to learn from are the ones that stick with you, right? Because, oh man, I just lost $5,000 on that really bad investment.
But some people
I
don't
will
learn that.
never do that again.
They'll do it again, and
Exactly.
they'll do it again, and they'll do it again.
Just like the guy that's going through his like 10th divorce or something, right?
Exactly, yeah. Well, definition of insanity, right? Keep doing it, hoping for a different outcome. And there's something to be said for effort and drive, but it has to be well founded. You have to have a goal, and that has to be a justified goal. Is it an attainable goal, right? Because 100%, if you just put all your time and money into something, just hoping, you haven't prepared, you haven't planned, you haven't done the research, that's a huge risk that you're taking. The goal is mitigation, right? Everything in investing or in business or in life is a risk. There's a calculable risk, whether it's small or large. Mitigating that and adjusting your circumstances for the optimal outcome, that's really as much as anyone else could do, right? You can't. No one's going to have 100% guarantee success. So how can I prepare for success? Plan for success. That's the big thing. Preparation. If you have a good game plan in play, and you're on it, you're doing your weekly updates, your monthly updates, checking in with you yourself, your employees, your business partners, whoever they may be. Are we on track? Are we making progress, or are we stagnating? Are we not aiming for what we want? You have to not only have that plan in place, but continually implement and reassess.
It's like a game of chess, right? You have to
Absolutely.
think of the next 5-6 moves ahead.
Absolutely.
Because you don't really know how the market's going to react. But then sometimes, a lot of the times, you just have to be able to kind of react in the moment too, because a lot of the times things are just they're just so unpredictable, and they just fall at you from nowhere, right?
That's why being a shark, being decisive is essential. And one of my tenets that I operate my investing, that I operate my business operations by, is that I don't gamble with anything I'm not completely prepared to lose. And a lot of people, when they're investing, they fall into this thing where they emotionally invest. It's like if you're playing blackjack, it's like you're playing poker. You start getting involved emotionally in the game, and once you have that, you better walk away, otherwise you're going to lose everything.
Well, that's the thing. I think in anything in life, you can't get too emotional.
You can't.
And that's when it makes you. What's when you can keep your sanity, right? Because otherwise, it's just like you get so involved in it, and then things just kind of fall apart, because they always do, and at the end, right?
Well, it's hard to see the whole picture when you're because oftentimes being emotional is associated with tunnel vision, right? You can only see what you feel, and if you can't see the whole picture, you're not privy to potentially what you're knee deep in. You may not realize where you are, and that's the real danger. Whether it's, like David said, gambling or whatever it may be. Yeah, if I opened up a mom and pop store and it hasn't been doing well for 12 years and I still own it, that's a realization I should probably come to. But maybe I built that with my own hands and it sent my kids to school. Well, that doesn't matter. If it sent them to school, great. Then that means it made enough at some point to send them to school. But if it's not making enough now, why am I still doing this? And I understand that there's attachment there, but at the end of the day, is it worth it? What are you sacrificing? Because right now, for not a lot of net gain, you're sacrificing your time, your sanity, and your years of your life, which to me I wouldn't sacrifice that for anything.
Well, even in school sometimes, I mean, like, depending on where you really go, right? A lot of the times you can learn the basics and the essentials, but if you really wanted to, you could probably, take the time and learn it all yourself online. You can find all the info online. It's just, I think the biggest issue that a lot of people face is, because we all have off days, right? So I mean, like,
everybody.
You'll wake up and you'll be like, I'm not motivated to do anything today. I just gonna stay in bed. Maybe I'll go do some dishes or something like that. Maybe go buy some groceries and just keep myself distracted with something else. And not stay focused on things. And then I think that's the biggest thing. That's the biggest hurdle for anybody and everybody. That's kind of like the common problem, the common issue that they constantly face is being able to push yourself to the point where you're like, no, I'm gonna get up even if I feel like crap. I'm still gonna give, even if I can give 10%. At least it's moving.
It's 10 more than you were to give it.
Exactly, right.
Exactly.
So it's at least I'll be 10% ahead of even if it's been a really shitty, crappy day, and even if I've not really accomplished much, but at least I've reached out to one person. I was able to make the connection, right?
And that's something that I absolutely feel very strongly about too, because a couple of years ago I had a back surgery, a very, very serious back surgery. I had some paralysis for a brief period.
My goodness.
And that really demoralized me, right? Like, 'cause I was in school, that's fine, but I didn't want to get out of bed to go to class. I was like, oh, you know, it's so much pain. You know, I don't want to have to deal with this. And then every week, you know, I was just like, okay, I'm going to do one more thing. I'm going to try and do one more thing. So I'm going to get out of bed today, and I'm gonna walk around my rooms. You know, see if I can do that. And then I slowly built it up. I slowly kept going. I kept increasing that goal point. And some points I wasn't able to do it. At some point I had to give up a little bit earlier. But I was like, you know what? Next day we're gonna do it again. And you fall down until you can stand up.
Just have to show up every single day.
Just have to show up every single day.
Sometimes, hey man, everyone hits rough points in life. Sometimes the most you can do.
Life always gets in the way, right?
Right? But showing up in itself, that takes dedication.
Yeah.
Consistency is the key. Because you could get up and give 100%. Everyone can do that at some point, right? But can you do that consistently?
Well, I think on the days when you can give 100%, instead you give 200%. Because,
Oh, absolutely.
Because you know that you can push yourself even more, and then on those days when you feel like zero, that's when you give 10 or at least 15 or 20. Right?
Well said, Arnold.
Just keep moving that goalpost forward.
I should quote myself on the show. I'll post a little saying.
Based on
the quote of me today.
Going
Quote
to
of the day.
Thanks, man.
going,
Stacking wisdom.
going to what you just said, like about like how like on the days where even if you feel like not motivated at all, as long as you give that 10-15%. We actually had a previous podcast guest who said something similar. She said that as long as she knows within herself that even if she's not going to be doing 10 things that day, as long as she's doing one, and even if that means just, you know, getting up and making her bed and going out and running like a couple errands, right? Like just that one collective thing. As long as she knows within her head she's doing that, she, you know, feels good about herself.
Shout out to Charlene,
Yeah.
Thanks for all that wisdom that you gave us on the other previous episode.
You're your own worst enemy, right?
Yeah.
So if proving yourself wrong sometimes is the hardest battle to win.
Yeah.
But also I think you can be your own worst enemy in the sense that you could be too judging yourself or being too
There's always that extreme, right? So what you want to do, at least what I found is with my own experiences, is that you got to find that perfect balancing point where you're hard on yourself, but you're not too hard on yourself, because you have to realize you're doing the same thing. It's the same way that I view it. I say when I was talking to some of my other friends, is I was like, why would I say these things to myself? If someone said those things to you, I'd probably beat them up, right? Like I can't say that to myself because I feel bad about that afterwards. And so what I learned is that I pushed myself, and I pushed myself very hard, but it took a while to get to that point, and it took a lot of training, a lot of self-training, and just, you know, teaching my mind, be like, all right, today it's been a rough day. We're still going to try and get one thing done. It could be something simple. It could be folding my clothes. It could be ironing shirts. Something simple. But at least I got that one thing. Tomorrow I'm going to do two things.
Yeah.
And a lot of times I find, specifically for the days where you're lacking in that kind of motivation department, right? Getting up and saying, okay, I'm going to do that one thing. When you actually start doing the one thing, a lot of times it's a little easier to do a little bit more, right?
You get inspired.
The hardest part is starting, right? When you feel low and you're starting low and you're on empty already waking up, okay, it's hard to get the ball rolling, but momentum is a very real thing, specifically when it comes to motivation, right?
Absolutely.
If you're out there, okay, I'm out here now, I got out of bed, why not do some more? Why may as well get this errand done too, right?
Yeah.
Maybe that's just personal, but I definitely find that, you know, once you get the ball rolling, it is easier to do more. The hardest part is taking that first
It's like
step.
one of those things that they teach you in the army, is like as soon as you get up, you make your bed, right?
Yeah.
Because it's almost like once you've actually put in the effort to do that, it's like you're setting yourself up for success for the rest of the day, right? So,
At the end of the day, it's muscle memory, right? Becoming successful becomes muscle memory. Because I wake up, I'm like, all right, I've brushed my teeth, I've eaten my breakfast, I made my bed. I now have got to be successful. I've been doing this for the past couple of years. You know, I got to just keep that pattern going. It's all patterns.
In the same way
repetition for sure.
in the same way where sometimes we can make failure routine or we can make complacency routine. We forget that through consistent effort, we can also make success routine. And there are a lot of people that do that. Very, very well-to-do people, whether that be monetarily or just in their field accomplishments, right? When you make success, when you make that drive routine, whether you get anything calculable out of it or not, that has an impact over the course of your life, right? Every day you're waking up 365 for the year. If you could say that, hey, I woke up 365 days this year, and maybe I didn't get stuff done on every day, but I woke up with drive, willing to do something. Just make the most out of each day, right? Maybe I wasn't working that day. Everyone needs days off. But if I got up and I made the most to enjoy that day or get the most out of that day, right? These are consistent routines for success. And when success makes the majority of your time, that's the most we can do, right? Mitigation over the course of the next 10 years. And you try and make the most of that time. And it's hard to think that far in advance because a lot of times we're dealing with our struggles day to day. back to back, right? Nights are tough, days are tough, working full time is not easy. But planning for that future, that's, at least for me, that's the light at the end of the tunnel. When I was working 40 hours a week doing manual labor, I'm not a big guy, man. I was hauling sofas above my head by myself. And I was saying, man, I do not want to do this for another 5 years. I don't want to do this for another week.
I used to be a furniture mover, so I know exactly what you're talking about.
Tough, right?
I've done that before, for a whole summer.
Each day you get up and all you can think about is, oh, I'm so sore. How could I possibly think about what I'm doing in 10 years? I can't think about what I'm doing in the next 10 minutes.
Yeah.
But it is essential because that gave me the motivation. Okay, well, I know I don't want to do this for 10 years. I need to start planning for an exit, right? And that's the big thing. Exit strategy.
And so one of the coolest parts is about our business partner lifestyle is that we actually met each other at a Shoppers Drug Mart. We were both merchandisers, and that was probably 2016. 2016.
Yeah.
Something like that.
We met at Shoppers too, so
It was
shout out
interesting.
SDM.
Shout out SDM.
Bringing people together. But at that moment, I would never have been able to look at that time in 2016 when I was I would have been 21. Yeah, 21 at that time, and been like, okay, for this guy and me are going to turn our Shoppers Drug Mart merchandise lives into owning successful businesses,
Right?
And to being executive,
And I know
it's a huge journey. It's a huge, really
Stepping stones.
Yeah, stepping stone.
Yeah.
I know for myself, and I'm sure a lot of other people included, at that point in time, I'm okay to share, I was at that was probably one of my lowest points. I had my first experience going to school, and it didn't go so well. I came home unsuccessful, and I found my job at Shoppers Drug Mart, and I was in a real slump. I was, not very self-assured. I was feeling a lack of confidence due to my recent failure, and I was kind of struggling for ways to find that motivation and find that kind of light at the end of the tunnel, right?
Of course.
And it's easy to get lost in your life like that and focus on the day-to-day. And it's only because, random connections. Life hits you, right? I met this guy and he was like, hi, my name is David.
Be my friend.
Be my friend. And I was like, this guy is weird, man. I don't know if I want to be your friend. But
Did not have a choice.
I got up and I went to work, and that's all you can do is live your life and try and make the most out of it, right? I met this guy at Shoppers Drug Mart, and here we are today. Who would have thought, right?
So 20, 30 years from now, when you start telling stories to your grandkids, you'll be like, yeah, when I used to work at Shoppers Drug Mart.
Work at Shoppers Drug Mart. That's where you gotta go.
Any child I have through retail at least once in their life, so they can learn.
They got it.
Never get stuck here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stay
Because
humble,
that's
stay
the
hungry.
big thing is that when we were at Shoppers Drug Mart at that specific one, there were 60-year-old ladies who were working as cashiers, and that was their life, and they've been doing that for 40 plus years, and they were happy there.
But at the time it was sustainable when they first started it.
Absolutely.
But now the world has changed so much that it's
Inflation. It's
Inflation.
you can't. And hey, I've been there. I'm sure David's been there. We've all been there. Working minimum wage is not ideal. It's really hard to make a livable income off of that today's day and age. Whether you have subsidies or help from a partner, maybe you're splitting the rent. Even then, it is hard living on a $1.50 every 2 weeks. Sometimes even less than that with minimum wage. Sometimes it's $800 a paycheck. That's not even rent for the month. How am I going to eat? Not to mention afford the gas to get to work. I understand that there's a minimum set there by the government, but by no means does it mean that minimum is a livable amount, right? That you got to find other ways to supplement that or different strategies, and to think that the government is like, yeah, no, you can live off of that.
That's
Not the
assuming
case
you're
per
lucky
se.
enough to get full time. And nowadays, common
Absolutely.
business practice is why give anyone full time when I could hire 2 part timers and not pay either of them benefits. Right, which is not a nice practice, obviously. But as a businessman, I can understand.
a smart, savvy move in a sense because if
benefits are expensive. Benefits are
extremely
really expensive.
you know what I just realized is that this guy, he actually did 2 weeks at Shoppers Drug Mart as well as a merchandiser.
Yeah.
And this is why one of the reasons why he came to me, he said, I don't ever want to do this job again. He's like, let's start a business. He's like, it's enough.
It's
So,
humbling.
It's
you know what?
humbling.
Yeah.
Let's make a promise to ourselves. 20 years from now, we'll meet each other back up on this podcast again,
do it.
or in a different version of it, maybe.
Yeah.
And then we'll talk about all our successes and everything that we've accomplished.
Yeah.
And then we can really give a shout out to SDM.
That'd be a heartfelt shout out indeed.
Once we can buy a Shoppers Drug Mart, we'll do it.
Well, you have to be a pharmacist, but I wouldn't be surprised because I can see you going to school for pharmacy too. So
we'll just add it to the list.
I'm also a pharmacist on the side. my other side hustle.
My actual on the side hustle right now. I work for a nonprofit called Health Nexus, where I'm actually a junior executive there.
No way, that's awesome.
I'm the innovation and software director, so I'm taking a nonprofit organization to the cloud right now. It's taking up a large,
really good experience.
But it's very wholesome. They do health information distribution across
Amazing.
Canada. And it's all nonprofit, right? So it's all free information. You know, it's a very wholesome experience.
I'd love to learn more about that down the road, but I think it's great. I mean, that's another thing is it's like a completely different segment altogether. Nonprofits, it's so hard to get funding for them, right?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's one of the things that I think a lot of companies struggle with, and I think that's considering that when you're trying to give back to the communities, it's one of those things that I think a lot of maybe entrepreneurs need to sort of realize to give back to their own roots, right?
So
to their starting to where they started before.
Absolutely. Our biggest motivation is one of our projects we have. I don't know if we mentioned it, Youth Entrepreneurship For World Change.
Yep.
So that was based around. Yeah, exactly. That was literally based around, hey, in a first world country, we've been given so many blessings, right? People my age, lots of people not my age, it's easy to not see those blessings, right? But just our currency alone, the fact that we can work for Canadian dollars, right? Sometimes that's worth upwards of 6 times a different currency, right? It's easy to give back to the world, and especially with the kind of money that some people come across in these days and age, right? Like if you had 10 grand, you could literally change a community's life in a different part of the world, right?
But not only that, it can a lot of times it can give you tax breaks too. Well, going back to taxes, right?
That's also a benefit. I wasn't going to mention that particularly.
Hey, if we're talking about crunching numbers here, we might as well.
Tax breaks.
Remember, we're stacking wisdom here, man. No bullshit.
And it all comes full circle, right?
Yeah, of course.
Being able to give back to that, it not only gives you some direction, it's new contacts, new networks. You're going to meet people who are inspired by you, maybe want to do the same thing, or maybe want to get involved with you, new business opportunities, and hell, you get a chance to give back and actually make a lasting, visible difference on the world.
And that's
it's legacy.
That's the benefit of YEWC, as we call it, Youth Entrepreneurship For World Change, is that we don't worry about the international right now because it's actually very difficult to operate nonprofits outside of Canada.
Yeah.
Of course.
So what we focus on right now is building our own communities, right? Because our parents came to this country with very little. They came with clothes on their backs. Usually, some of them had jobs, some of them didn't. But they come from countries that have either been ravaged by war, poverty, or pretty much anything else you could think of at this point.
Right.
And so when we were born in Canada, we were lucky to be born in Canada. We're born into middle class families, and we like I live in Hamilton right now. I look around at some of the areas in Hamilton that don't have these benefits that we take for granted even in the GTA.
For sure.
And so one of the things that I feel very strongly about, and I know Justin feels as well, is building our local community as well with YEWC. And what we strive to do is give entrepreneurs not just the ability to make their own money, build their own futures, but also build the futures of everyone around them.
I believe very firmly, you can give to charity and feed 100 people for a night, right? Or if you could really feed one person with the correct knowledge that it takes to feed 1,000 for the rest of their lives. If you make them empowered, and if you show them the way, right? That one person, hey, if they grew up from poverty, right? And they know that it's there and they've experienced it, they've seen it, and you instill in them the motivation to give back and to fix that, you don't have to feed 100 people for a night because you've just made one person who's going to make it their life's purpose to feed themselves and the other people that they care about in their community for as long as they physically can.
And that's lasting change,
empowering.
right? That goes further than building a business that'll last 20 years. That's lasting change. You're affecting all of those people's lives. That's legacy. And that's really the goal.
That's our big thing.
I think when you guys scale, you should really consider doing something along the lines of like microloans, because I know that there's been a lot of success with building up communities outside of obviously Canada, but I know like in India that they've run that experiment, right, with those banks, and now they're trying to expand a little bit into Africa and like other places as well. So I think that I can totally see you guys running something like that, right?
Our current one of our current in development projects, we don't actually have the capital to really start that as of yet. But one of our developing projects right now is opening businesses in low income communities and subsidizing the income for the people that they'd hire from that community. So that way you're creating jobs in the community, you're adding resources at community, and you're bringing money into into it, and we find that's a large part of it, right?
It's for the community, by the community, right? Because when it's owned and operated by someone who's got a vested interest in that area, it goes a long way for the other people that are going to be using it, because it's locals going to be using that specific place. He's going to be supplying needs specifically for those locals that he knows what they need, right? When you have someone who's coming in to a business, they drive in, they just own the business, they show up on Tuesdays just to check it out, right? There's a lot of there's a detachment there, a dissociation,
course, yeah.
right? And when you're vested in your community, you're working with, you're surrounded by your community, it goes a long way to build that rapport, right? And that's the goal, is to try and instill that in people, that you could be doing this, you could do some good for your community, you could help your own community get some jobs, right? There's a benefit that you have, that you can connect with other people on more than just a monetary basis.
And success breeds success, right? Like, you have a successful business scenario, other businesses are going to start opening, so like, oh, this is now a valuable spot. The community has more money, that's more businesses, more innovation, and it just keeps going on and on. And we want that to be driven entirely by the community. We're trying our best to help that out.
The only thing that I can sort of see that can be somewhat of a hindrance is I feel like sometimes people, they maybe take advantage of it, of programs like that, right? So how would you combat something, along those lines? Because I know it's not, I'm probably getting ahead of myself. I'm always one of those guys that always tries to think ahead of.
Oh, absolutely.
But like,
critical.
Part of the 5-year
I think that's one of maybe one of the bigger issues that we have, maybe in North America specifically, maybe with government sponsored programs to some extent, is that because people, it creates comfort. It's almost like if you start feeding birds, they'll know they can come back to you, and they'll rely on that, right? They rely on that resource. So, and then in addition to that, how do you guys plan to sponsor this? Is this going to be one of the offshoots from your main primary business that you're running, and then you're just going to inflow, I guess, some of the partial income into that in order to make this a reality?
So really, a lot of what we're aiming to do with YEWC is not create YEWC businesses, create YEWC partners. And so we want to have like a hand in these businesses, so that we can vet that out, right? Because we're not just going to give a business cash and be like, all right, pay your employees with us. No, we want to be a part of that as well. Because what YEWC is about, it's about bringing that community together and just expanding its size. We're eventually going to be holding networking events for all of our different entrepreneurs, so that they can meet, they can make deals between themselves, they can work out, so that both businesses will succeed. But the best way we're going to be able to help this community is by being an actual part of it as well.
Would love to be a part of those networking events, because I think it'd be great for us to meet a lot of potential entrepreneurs and people that are just getting started, or people that have been doing it for a little while. Because I think we'd love to give them a platform to speak on our podcast, and to just interact and to network with them as well.
So a lot of small business owners, right? They're hungry for just a chance to talk about what they're passionate about, what they're doing, right? There's a lot of them, a lot of people, small businesses, big businesses, whatever, they have a really good thing going, and they're doing it, a lot of them, for good reasons, right? Not just for themselves, but for bigger purposes, right? And the chance to get the word out there, even like us, right? Like, we've been doing our thing for a while, but it's nice to have a chance to come out, speak about what you're doing, what you're passionate about, and try and connect with some other people. Maybe give them something to be passionate about, right? So the goal, the long-term goal for that kind of idea would be to have a nice gathering or an event where you could have people attend, let them network between themselves, raise some awareness, and say, hey, we're trying to do this project. If you guys are able to throw any funding this way, then let's do that. And you guys can all come be a part of it, right? Let's be a part of something bigger. And at the best case, we'd have the funding potentially to help another business or a local business get off their feet. At the worst case, we have a bunch of young entrepreneurs who are hungry to learn and network with each other, talking about their ideas. Seems like a win-win to me.
I think young and hungry is an amazing combination. So it's something that can totally scale and grow into something that's. And when you bring all that energy together, it can become super powerful too.
And a lot of them are looking for mentors as well, because a lot of them are just starting in entrepreneurship. A lot of them have been in there for maybe a couple times. Some of them may have had successful businesses before. Some of them may have had non-successful businesses for sure. We're going to try and get as many speakers. We're going to try and get some keynotes in.
We'd love to be speakers on your thing too, because I think we can talk a lot about social media marketing and then all the stuff that's involved in that, because we've been delving into that for almost a couple of years now. So it's been really a point of interest for us, because I think it's very relevant, especially in today's day and age, when like you, one of the things you were saying to me, I think before we even started the podcast, is you can operate your whole business off of this thing, right? So it's
if you design it properly, you can do it from your pajamas.
I think that the one biggest thing that people kind of forget about social media is it's a channel of communication, and I think that people forget to actually use it
Yes.
as
To be
as
social.
a communication
Yes.
tool
Yeah.
to actually be social, right?
Yeah.
People use it as a distraction right now.
Yeah.
When it can be so much more.
Entertainment, right? That's, I think the big thing is it's entertainment. You can just keep scrolling and there's always something new to look at, right?
Well, it's like Gary Vee saying, right? Like, you don't stop being consumers, start being creators, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
so this is stuff like that. So, I mean, how do you guys go about finding, the potential businesses that you'd want to work with and to help out, right? And like, what is a potential business, like, what is it they have to contribute in terms of, from their kind of side of the things to, in order for them to be able to have your help?
Well, a lot of it for me, and it varies for everyone, right? Personally, I have to find that I respect that business.
Sure.
Okay? Not just the model, more than that, the person. Because at the end of the day, you don't get into business with someone for their just their business.
Sure.
Right? You get in for them because they run it. They run the show, and you could have a great business doing. I'm not going to say that I disqualify any particular business if they're run competently by someone who I back and I find that they run things well and I believe in, then that's enough for me. If I can see the numbers, everyone can speak numbers, right?
Of course.
If there's good numbers, sure, then that's one part vetted. But more than that is the person, because ultimately we're investing. When you get into business with someone, not only you're investing money, but you're investing time, and time is critical. You don't want to invest 2 weeks or a month into a project to find, this person's not committed, or this person, is getting divorced now and they're dumping their business in the garbage. They're dumping, there goes a month of our time, right? That would be my worst fear. So the big part for me is I want to get an understanding of your dedication and your commitment to this. Is this just a side thing for you, or are you looking to do something with this?
Right, like how serious you are, essentially.
serious,
Yeah.
exactly.
And a lot of what we do too is we don't view them as businesses in that sense. At that point, when we're first getting our class, we view them as assets. We say, is this going to be worth it? Is it worth our time? And so, but more importantly, whether at what stage of the business they are, we have options for any stage of business, whether it's just they have an idea or whether or not they're ready to go to market. We like to look at the person and see, is this person going to be useful? Is this person going to be able to grow this business? Is this person going to be able to grow our business? Is this person going to be something that's a sustainable, scalable asset?
Because ultimately, you can cater towards anyone. If there was someone, we've been there from the start of the business where we were just building websites for people. Absolutely. If someone came to me and they were like, hey, I want to own a business and I want a website. I don't want anything else, but I just want a website. I'd be like, sure, yeah, I can build you a website.
Absolutely.
I don't think I would ever personally, go further with that and partner you with anything, but it doesn't look like you want that either. So
course,
that's cool with me. It's finding the people who do, and that's the difference, right? Are we going to work for you, or are we going to work with you? If you just want a website, I'm happy to build you a website and walk away with some cash. But if you want more than that, we can give. Is there potential? Is it going to be worth it for us?
The first thing that we do is we sit down and we do a free consult with anyone who wants to approach us. We sit down, we do a free consult, and we establish what they want out of this. So if they say, we just want to build a website, we want to have a web store, for example, we'll be happy to help you. Have a nice day. Here's your product. If you want, we can do subscription-based stuff. We have different options for that as well.
Nice.
For security suites,
Sure.
SSL encryption, all of that. But if someone comes to us and like, hey, I have a business, but I want to grow it, we'll be like, perfect. Let us get to know you. So we'll sit down, we'll meet them, our consult will turn into a little bit longer session. We'll get to know the person, we'll get to find out what kind of person they are, whether or not they're able to put that work in, whether or not we think that they're able to put that sacrifice in.
And have they done the work up to this point, right? A lot of times when they meet with us, that being said, there's a variance, right? But we try to hold these consults with businesses who are at least at the point where they have some experience. Have they already contacted their wholesaler? Because I think an investor's worst idea of time waste is where someone's like, hey, can we meet up and talk about this? And sure, you schedule a free consult with them, you meet up with them, and they're like, I want to own a business. And you're like, great. What have you been doing so far? And they're like, not much. That's the worst, because it's like, well. What do you expect from us?
It's like the ones you did to deliver on.
I can't just snap my fingers. Exactly, I can't just snap my fingers and make you be successful,
Sure, of
right?
course, yeah.
What have you done so far? And to be honest, from an investor perspective, when you're looking to get into partnerships and things like that, it is an investment. You have to add value. You have to have some track record. I'm not saying you have to be in business for 5 years and have numbers to show and blah 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 blah, but your dedication. What have you been doing so far? Because if you want a business, absolutely, you must have done something up until this point. Have you talked to your wholesalers? Do you have products sitting somewhere? Are you just looking for an avenue with which to sell that product?
Of course.
Do you have contacts? Do you have, do you have a bin? Have you even started? Some people we meet up, they have great ideas. They've already contacted wholesalers, blah, blah, blah. They want to get into the banking, and we're like, what's your bin? What's a bin? Your registered business number with Canada that you
What's your
need
HST
for
account
everything, right? And
You can't make any sales until you have your tax account set up. Do you have
Exactly,
any business banking? Do you know what kind of companies are you going to take? Are you going to take Visa? Are you going to take MasterCard? Are you going to take Discover?
Sure,
What are you going to take? So are you going to
Yeah.
track it? What accounting systems do you have set up? And so those are things that we can train them, and we offer different accounting solutions. We offer different legal solutions. We can do all of that with them, but we have to say that the person is worth doing that with them. And we make a very clear thing. We're never going to do anything for you unless it's a physical good we're delivering to you. We're not going to build your business for you. We're not going to register your BIN number. We're not going to do that. We're going to do that with you. We're going to teach you how to do it, and so that you can grow your business, because this is their business. We're helping out. We're on board. We're investing.
part of the
with them.
team, right? Working
of course,
with
yeah.
versus working
Yeah.
for.
Exactly.
I think it gives a lot of reassurance to a lot of people too, because when you have somebody who's able to like back you up and like guide you through the process, I think that a lot of the times it makes things so much more smoother and simpler and easier, right? So,
And-
but I totally resonate with what you're saying, because even with our own business, we found that it's important to have to find a balance of a working relationship where it's working for where both parties are working for the same benefit, right? Because it's
Mutual.
it's so frustrating and nearly infuriating when you're the only one that's trying to kind of deliver stuff for them, and they don't even take the time to even call you back, let's say, or follow up with you and get stuff done for you that you've asked them to in order for them to succeed, right? So that's it's definitely important to find those people that are engaged.
Well, it has to be a symbiotic relationship, right? If you're not both working for a common goal, then you're bound to hit some pretty early on rough roads, right?
Yeah.
If it's their business that they're owning, and ultimately they're not driven to see it succeed, there's no point even starting with that, right? Because that's doomed to fail from the start. Finding the right partners, and that comes back to our vetting process. You may not have a ton at this point in time, but there is a track record of history in terms of your work ethic and what you have to this date that is more than enough to show me what kind of a person you are,
Right.
what kind of a businessman you are.
Of course.
Businesswoman, businessman, whatever.
That was going to lead me into my next question, because I believe you guys also said that you work with businesses that are just starting and that are crafting up their business plan.
Yeah.
So if you're starting with those businesses that have no real previous experience, how much harder does that make to vet and decipher
it's
which ones you want to work
time.
with?
I'll say it's definitely more time. I wouldn't necessarily it's harder, mostly because what we're doing at that point, we're still identifying the character of that person. Because at that stage, we're not as concerned, especially because a lot of businesses come out to us in that stage. Right? They don't necessarily have the business. A lot of businesses actually don't start with a business plan. They don't know what it is. They don't know what they need to include in it.
Just an
wanna
idea.
own a business.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so what we do is we walk them through, okay, so like a bank will ask for this, and this in order to give you a line of credit.
Yeah.
Right? And so we start with the basics. We're like, okay, so where do you want to take this? That's the first question we usually ask. Usually after, how much do you want to sacrifice in order to get this off the ground?
Yeah.
But the second question is like, where do you want to go with this? Like, is this a cash flow thing for you? Like, do you want a quick get rich quick scheme?
Right.
Like, what's your plan? What do you believe in your product, or do you believe in your
Hopefully you're not working with the businesses that are out to just get quick rich, right?
But some of them come in being like, oh, I thought that's what business is.
Yeah.
There's a lot more than you would think. Right?
A lot of
would
people
just-
come in
I
being
just
like,
want some money.
I want to drop ship. How do I get $1 million? And I'm like, well, how much are you going to invest in it? Like, I didn't know I had to put money into it. And I'm like, okay, well,
Money or time, or both.
Or
One of the two. If
I
you want to
can't-
make $1 million, you're going to be
summon
working
products out of
50
thin
hours a
air.
day, right?
it's
And that's another thing too, is even if you go to the bank, it's not a guarantee that they'll give you a loan, because
Well, the whole thing about that is
especially now,
preparation.
yeah.
Exactly.
Oh.
They want to know more than us, even, right? Like,
They ask for-
we can invest time, right? But banks are investing money, lots of it, right? So you can bet when, and obviously everyone kind of has a general idea, like, oh, if I were to go to a bank and ask for a loan, that they'd be on it, right? But they are. If you go specifically over a business, which is potential for failure, high potential for failure,
Of course.
what they're backing is the numbers, and they're backing you. Because when you have that consultation, you could give them papers, you could give them whatever, and you bet they have analysts that could give a prediction, yes or no. But at the end of the day, the business is run by a person. So beyond the numbers, it has to be two guarantees. It
course.
has to be the person and the business, and the bank's gonna look at both hard. You have to have track record. You have to be able to bring them numbers. Yes, I have a BIN. I want an account. In fact, I already have a business bank account. It's got this much in it. That's why I'm looking to put this much down for a line of credit. The line of credit's gonna go towards this. How much interest are you gonna charge on the line of
every
credit?
dollar and where it's going. A lot of people also don't realize is that when they open a business account, before they're incorporated, they're still personally liable for every business asset. That means debt, that means credit cards, that means line of credit. Until you incorporate the sole proprietor or general partnership, or you can have 20 people working for you, but if you're not incorporated, the person who owns that business is personally liable, which means to say, for example, you default on your bank line of credit, they will come after you personally. They will take your house, they'll take whatever they need to in order to pay that off. And a lot of people don't realize that. A lot of people are like, oh, I'll go to the bank, I'll get a $20,000 line of credit, and because I've got some business assets, I've got investors, and I'm like, that's all well and good, but you still have to pay those investors back too. Like, you're not off the hook with them. That's not money they've given you.
Of
That's
course.
money they've loaned you.
And a lot of the times banks would analyze all that stuff too.
And that's where
especially if you have a lot of that, debt.
And that's where you come to that good debt versus bad debt, specifically with the banks, right? And with numbers that are also a lot bigger, right? They're looking, okay, well, you have 40 grand out. That's great. You can do a lot with 40 grand. You might be very successful with that, but what are you putting it towards? Are you buying property with that, or are you just, buying a ton of sandwiches with that? It's the good debt versus bad debt. They want to see that you've put that money towards growing your business somehow. Somehow that money has to get ROI for you, so the bank can get ROI on you, right? You have to get that before they can get it. But they got to see. And that's the first thing they're going to ask is, if you have debt, where did that debt come from and where's it going, right? Is it working for you now, or is it sitting there?
And especially a lot of people, especially young entrepreneurs, will go into the banks, and the banks will be like, all right, we'll give you a $20,000 line of credit. And they'll be like, wow. That's a huge amount of money for them. That's more than their tuition. They go and they're like, wow, I have $20,000. I can do so many things with it. And then they start spending it. $20,000 for a business just getting off the ground is nothing.
It is nothing.
You can spend that in a month just on inventory.
Spend it in a day.
You can spend it in a day.
Spend it in an hour.
But right at the start, they'll get the dollar signs in their eyes. And they'll be like, wow, I've got $20,000. Okay, I'll keep $5,000. I'll put $15,000 towards the business. And a lot of young business owners will try that, and then they'll run into trouble because now they've spent their $15,000. They're short $5,000 that they had budgeted for, and now they don't know what to do. And now they have no way to gain that income. So the bank's like, okay, where's our 9% interest? We're not going to ask for a lot, but we want our interest. We're not going to. We don't need a huge payment. Just give us what we're.
I call it seeing S's, right? When all you can see is this, and money, right?
Yeah.
You have to think for the future. You can't just see the S's in front of you. You have to see the S's in 4 years down the road. That's what banks looking for,
and that's
right?
why we structure the business plan, and that's the first thing we do before we go to the banks. Before we do anything, we're like, what's your 5-year plan? And so that's a lot of how we vet these new businesses. Is like, we see what their reactions are. Be like, okay, say we gave you $50,000 right now. What would you do with it? That we ask like a series of questions, and it differs from business to business, but we basically say, if you're given money, what are you going to do with it? What's your 5-year plan? Who are you as a person? And where do you want to go with this?
That's my favorite question. If I gave you $100 grand right now, what would you do with it? That tells you so much about a person, about their goals, about their past history, about their ideologies in general. Whether they come from money or not has an effect on the way they view it, right? If you've had money all your life, you may not view as $100 grand as a ton of money. Some people, $100 grand is a fortune. And if you gave them 100, if you asked them what you do to 100 grand, they'd be like, I could probably start a great business with 40 and put the rest just to savings instead of risking it. Why do that? Or I could invest the rest in 40 in terms of long-term assets that are going to kick back something, right? Someone who's used to that might be like, that's only 100 grand. Let's start up a store. Let's open up a drugstore, right? Like, there's so much based on your mentality about your outlook, right? That plays a very significant role in not only the way you live your life, but the way you run your business.
And you get a lot of businesses who come in with one product and say, this is my product, I'm going to sell this for the next 20 years. And I'm like, okay, that's great. What happens when people get bored in 5 months? And they want a new product. And your business model is only sustainable as long as you're generating content. Right? Then that could be a service based, that could be a product based, that could be a YouTube video based. A lot of YouTube videos, the YouTubers have to release consistent content, And
podcasts, right? It's all about consistency, and especially it's the same way online. Like, people view digital versus physical assets very differently, and they are. But in terms of operation, in the same way we're a business that operates 9 to 5. If you show up at 9 o'clock and they're not open, and should be open right now. How come? What's going on here? Inconsistency. Eventually, you're just going to stop trying. Okay, this guy's never open on time. I don't know when he plans on opening. I'm going to find another place that does the same thing.
Find a competitor.
If you're
course.
if you're not pulling all the strings to make sure that your website or that your business is meeting those clients' demands timely, right? People don't like inconsistency, and same thing with YouTube channels, podcasts, whatever. Putting out those videos on a regular basis, connecting with that audience, with your base,
Call to
right?
action.
Letting them know that you're
Yeah.
still here. That's a big thing. When you're one of 500 other YouTube channels, no one remembers you particularly unless you put out the video every week and you're like, hey, don't forget me, I'm still here.
exactly.
Here's another one on how to live a good life or how to make some money or
Yeah.
how to do this. Oh, well, great. That's continual information. It's new, it's interesting, and it's relevant, right? You have to keep it consistent, and if you're not, you become one of those businesses that...
And that's another thing too, is that totally resonates with me because of social media again. And it's about the customer, and they can go and check out your social media without you ever knowing about it, and they can get a perception of what kind of business you are. Just from that alone. And if you're not being consistent with it, if you've posted to Facebook like 2 years ago last time, right? And then you just have the Facebook page just for the check mark. Then it's like people will just know, right? Like just like another guest that we had yesterday, we were talking to him. I said to him, like I don't remember exactly what the conversation was in regards to, but he said, if I'm going to a restaurant, I'm going to go on their social media, I'm going to check it out, look at what they're doing. If there's like pictures of their food and whatever else, he's like, if they're consistently posting, then I can tell they're actually involved in this kind of thing,
Exactly,
right?
yeah.
So I'm like, that's the sort of mentality that the young generation already has. That's it's carrying across, and that's one of the things that businesses need to start adopting. And that goes back to show like the big businesses, the big corporations, they're slowly starting to adapt to all this stuff as well, because I think it was like 2-3 months ago, Coca-Cola started advertising on Facebook. And if one of those giants like that, it's gonna increase the amount of money that you have to spend in order to promote your business. But if you get it on it now, if you start doing it now, then you can get yourself ahead so much more. Right?
They're trying to make up for lost time by throwing hundreds of millions of dollars.
Absolutely,
Right?
of course.
A Nike commercial, for example, like a single Facebook post for Nike will probably cost them $30,000 just to make. They'll put a team on it. They'll spend 20 hours working on it. They'll develop it and they'll post and they'll spread it everywhere as much as they can. But you have people, you have young businesses, you have new businesses, or people from this generation or just a little bit above who have experience with this, and they've been developing content. They've been doing it since they were 15 and 16. And they're fully ingrained. They've built a community. They've built a following. And
they've lived without it.
13-year-old Instagrammer with 5 million followers.
They can spend $20 and get the same market penetration that Coca-Cola is getting for $30,000 commercials.
Well, and look at just the other day, right? My car ran into a problem, and it was like 8:30 p.m. What's the first thing we all do? Mechanic open near me, right? If you're not on there, you have no chance, right? There's so many opportunities. However, there were so many other places, but they closed at 6. This guy was open, and I needed, my engine light was on. It was an emergency. I need somewhere to go. I'm going to take it somewhere.
Of course,
Who is it gonna be? He was the only one open for like 25 square kilometers. Okay, well, my decision's made, right? Gotta be out there. Having just something out there, right? Something, who knows what scenario people are gonna run across there, right? And then just having your foot in there and a door, a website to visit, that goes a long way. I went to that guy, got my work done there, and I've developed a new connection. Maybe I'll go there again. Who knows, right? But it's only because he had that out there.
And one of the big things that I'm very fond of, at least when we help these businesses, is revenue stream diversification. Because a lot of them will come in with one product, they'll come in with one idea. I'm like, that's great, and that'll keep you going. And you know what? You will keep developing products.
Smart,
but that's one thing you can do. What else can you do, right? Because I'm sure you've got multi-talents. I'm sure you can do a couple other things. Why don't you talk about your products? Why don't you make videos on how to use your products? Why don't you spread your products? See if you can convert them to a mobile platform.
Intermarket diversification.
Always keep, because once you have diversification, you don't just have all your eggs in the one basket. You got 10 baskets with all full of eggs. That's a lot of eggs. I'll take them.
The story is of I knew this guy. I worked at a dealership at one point. I called him the wealthy body shop man.
Right.
Multi-millionaire. And I went, how did you do this, right? He had one body shop, and eventually, obviously, he had several. But it wasn't just having those body shops open for work. He would, of course, have a client base coming in, getting a body shop done. If he would see a car, per se, that the client was like, I need this fixed, but I don't really want it. It's a lot of money. He'd be like, I'm happy. You want to part ways with this? I'll give you $5,000 for your car. Buys the car, fix it up, sell it for 25. Okay, well, that's another stream of revenue that he's doing on top of the body shop
Yep.
business. Now he's also got the capital, the working capital to start going to auctions. Sweet, that car is a pretty nice car. I know that I have a buyer for
Yeah.
it because I've been dealing with people out here, and I know that that guy's car got totaled, so he needs a car. I can get him a car.
Yeah.
Let's do the business. So he diversified within his own market, found different ways to use his body shop, to use his client base, to use his connections. And now he's got 5 body shops that don't just do body work, and he's got lots full of cars just waiting to be sold. Right? When I ran into a problem, I was like, "Hey Matt, can you hook me up with a car?" He's like, "What do you take your pick?" Right? Lots of options, and he had a body shop. He's a humble guy, humble beginnings, right? But he was smart. He thought about different ways that he could make more money or make more business or meet more people without per se taking a capital investment to do something different. Or he didn't need to hire more people for that. He didn't need to buy more products for that. He just needed a different plan and a way to adapt that to his current business.
And a lot of the times it's just like you said, it's adapting, right? So it's utilizing what you have knowledge of already, and maybe changing it up a bit or learning something extra that comes on top of that, right? That can allow you to maybe expand into other segments of whatever that specific area is, right?
Absolutely. And one of the big things too that I found, especially with our business, we started with that, right? We started with websites. And you're like, how can we? Justin came up with this. He's like, how can we make it better? How can we offer more services?
Smart.
We don't have to. Expand
You're the salesperson.
Red-handed.
He's the brains, right? So he's the brains of the
It's a great business model. We love it because I'm just like, all right, Justin, you handle our clients, and I will build everything.
Yeah.
And it works out super well because Justin comes up with these beautiful business ideas. We
Don't sell yourself short. He's got some ideas of his own.
we are able to take our existing infrastructure, expand it at a very low cost to us, and just we tripled the amount of service we offered within 8 months. Tripled. And that wasn't from a small original number. We were originally offering about 4 to 6 services, depending on the client. We now offer 18 minimum, and we offer basically customizable package. Like, you want something, we can probably do it for you. And it's one of the huge things that's really allowed Bed Build Business to thrive, is that ability to help everyone. We've expanded our demographic from just people who want websites to anyone with a business.
My thing about that is VPC, varies per contract, right? That screams adaptability, openness. If our logo was just "we build websites," that's going to heavily limit the amount of people that are going to come to us, right? Whether they even talk to us or not, it might be based on that. If we just say offer business development, well, that could be a lot of different things, right? Keeping it open invites people to check you out, to be curious.
It also works amazingly with our SEO because search engine optimization is a huge part of any business model now, right? And so if we say, oh, we're a web design company, we're now one of the thousands of web design companies that exist. The Micro WordPress is all of them. But now we're a business development firm. We offer every services. So in our SEO tags, we have each and every one of our services. So say someone's like, oh, I want help registering my business, we pop up. I want help designing a logo, we pop up. I need help with my business banking, we pop up. We're adding ourselves to so many different streams of both customer acquisition and revenue that we don't even have to work for those, right? We can just, it takes me about 5 minutes to update those lists. And within those 5 minutes, we've now increased our market reach by 100% each time.
Absolutely.
And it's huge.
Yeah.
You guys are smart. Sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
No, just that's it, right? Thinking outside the box.
Yeah. That's one of the, I think, biggest struggles is that people are kind of like you were going back to where you were saying with the tunnel vision is a lot of the times they're just stuck in their ways and they only want to see the world in that specific way, and that's usually not necessarily the problem, but more so of a challenge for them to expand their mind and try to step back and look at take a look at it from the outside. And sometimes it's one of the things that we provide to some of the businesses too, is we step back and we say, listen, guys, we're giving you perspective on your business and the way your social media looks from a perspective of a customer. Because this is how you look on social media, and you could be doing a lot better, and it could be organic. A lot of it could be organic, and we'll give you the tips and tools how to do it. And that's the beauty of it is that we try to provide value to them first, right?
It's a second opinion.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Well, it's a super valuable service, right? That's something that we'd even market to our clients. We'd probably send them your way.
Yeah, I was gonna just say. So see right there, we're making business right on the podcast.
Know a lot of people, right?
Yeah, of course.
Everyone needs a second opinion, right?
Of course.
It's easy, especially when it's yours. It's your baby, right?
Of course,
you see that in a specific light. You've been working hard, whether it's successful or not. Maybe you want it to be successful and you want it to be that so bad that you can only see it a specific way. Well, hey, maybe this one change could probably do you quite a bit of good in terms of opening up to different markets. But if you can't see that, you're never going to see it.
Of course.
And so having that second opinion goes a long way. That's why it's important to have business partners, right? You try and find people whose skills offset yours and complement your overall goal, right?
Yeah.
They can see the things that you can't see, because you can see the things that you can see very well, and they can't do that. Exactly. So you want to try and diversify as well with your business partners, right? That second opinion is critical. Sometimes you need a third and a fourth opinion, right?
And it's great to network, just like we're doing right now, because it just allowed us to, come to that synergy, right? So we're able to kind of come to a conclusion on the same point, and allows us to, possibly create something else out of this, right? So
That's the beauty of business, right? When my saying is, you've succeeded when both people walk away feeling like they've won. Right? That's business,
of course.
And it's so doable.
It's so essential for, I think, a lot of people to kind of realize is that when you both try to provide value for each other, that it's because you're given that. Genuinely, a lot of the times it starts to come back to you,
Give and take,
So it's like, I don't want to say like it's almost like karma, but it is kind of, right? So because if you keep giving, you're bound to get some of that stuff back, because it's just the way it works.
Statistic.
The way I see it too, right? Like our clients are like, oh, we want a second opinion on our social media. We send them to you. They're like, wow, that was great. Our clients are happy. You got a new client. We both win in that situation. Our clients will be like, anything else we want, they'll come to us. They'll come to you. Yeah, perfect. We all win.
There is a way to make everybody happy, and I think for me personally, that was one thing I've struggled with. As a younger guy, I was always, I want to make everybody happy, and I wouldn't think about myself. Yes, it is a ton of work, and in some ways it is a real burden, but it is also a very useful skill. When you can look into a situation, find out what he wants, what she wants, and what I want, and find a way that everybody gets at least partially what they want,
right?
You have a beautiful piece of work there, and it's really useful in business, I found. That's, maybe it's a bit of psychology, but getting down to the type of person they are, what they really want out of this, why are they here, right? That goes a long way in terms of discerning what kind of business they're going to do, what you can provide for them, and what they can provide for you. And when everyone walks away happy, no one feels like they've lost, right? A lot of people think business and sales, right? They're like, oh, one person's going to be ripping someone off just to get rich. It doesn't have to be that.
It's about relationships, and I think it's become more so nowadays, because like it's almost like, it's funny because it's almost like everything has like a life cycle, right? And it feels like a lot of the times now it's almost circled all the way back to the times when it was almost like people worked for their common good of each other, and like it's almost like you could almost exchange services. So you could actually exchange my professional service for your professional service, and in turn, create that benefit. So it seems like it's going back to those like original roots, right? And I think it's beautiful.
It's beautiful. And that's a lot of that has to do with the fact that I can pick up the phone and I can talk to someone halfway across the world. No lag, no problems. I can have a video conference. We can set up a meeting between 20 different computers across Canada. That's a lot of people. That's a lot of range, and you can have that instantly. You can set up different businesses. You can have them coordinate. You can have them all work towards a single uniform goal where they all succeed.
And it's open-mindedness, right? I think once you start thinking about other people, whether it be businesses or on a personal level, as instead of different, them versus us, right? We're all in business together. We're all in the game of life together, right? If there's no benefit to you not succeeding along with my success, then what extra reason would I have to not make us both succeed, right?
Like some of the things that we've learned in the last couple of podcasts is that, there's enough business to go around for everybody.
Absolutely.
And just because we have a good working relationship with somebody else, and because they might be competing to some extent with us, doesn't mean that we have to be, frenemies or whatever, right? So
there's always room for collaboration.
We could still always have that room for collaboration, just like you're saying, right?
So. Because there are some things that you might excel in that we might excel in, and we can always, our customers will be happy either way. When you have a happy customer, they spend a lot more money.
Everybody wins.
No kidding, of course.
Sure.
I think that you guys have been awesome. You've brought definitely a lot of wisdom to it, and that you've allowed us to kind of for me, for once, I can start quoting myself, so that's I can go back to that. So that's great. No, you guys have been awesome, and I know that we've known each other for a while, and I know you're a really smart guy, and I know that you guys are going to be super successful, and the fact that you're have this, want and need to give back to the community is, I think, that is one of those crucial pieces that is becoming essential in today's business. And that's what a lot of people are maybe missing, right? And it doesn't hurt along the way to maybe have some tax kickbacks too. Right?
Oh, absolutely.
Because
Definitely does not hurt.
going back to the numbers,
Definitely
right?
does not hurt.
I'm
Going
not going
back
to complain to the CRA.
Yeah.
I think you should take more. No, I'm not going to have that problem.
No, of course, yeah. No, I think that it's been a pleasure to have you guys here, and we'd love to even consider bringing you guys on for another podcast where we can we can do like a recap. Maybe like a year from now, we talk about the progresses that we both have made and how it's it might have benefited both of us, and the stories that we can share in terms of experiences that we've been able to gain from it. Right? So,
Delighted to have this back. Thank you.
You guys have been awesome. I love all your ideas, and I think that you'll do very well, and I believe in you. It's really a pleasure to speak with you guys, and thank you so much for coming on our podcast.
Thank you for having us on the show.
Let's do it.
Great.
Let's talk business. We'll turn the camera off now. Bye, guys.
Thank you, guys.
So that was the end of the podcast. Stay tuned. There's going to be a lot more episodes to come. Bye.
See you.